Hello everybody, it's FSSzilla, and I am playing a game called Luftrausers from a company called Vlambeer. And in this game, you pilot a fighter plane. Here, actually, I'll just show you what I have here. This is the fighter plane that you start out with in this game. It has a standard engine, standard body, and a standard machine gun for its weapon. And you have a whole bunch of permutations that I'll get to show you when I die. The way this game works has some interesting mechanics. As you can see, you can kind of stall out as you're flying so that you have gravity do its work and pull you down. And the engine will, you can turn it back on and go flying. Using the stall mechanic allows, you can only, you can keep your momentum while you're flying and turn and fire if you cut the engine, which allows you to get a bunch of pursuers behind you and shoot them. As you're shooting, you won't be able to repair your plane, but you repair when you are stopped shooting, and if you take a hit, you will get damage that shows up as a circle that I'm trying to get hit now. There, it appears as a circle around there. It flashed there, but it wasn't enough damage to stay on the screen. I'm smoking now, though, so you can tell I've actually still taken a hit. And there, that's enough to actually show up and see. I'm actually in a critical state here, but if I stop firing, it repairs. And you know when you're fully repaired when flex stop flying off of your ship. There's also audio cues and stuff. Anyway, the point of this game is to achieve objectives. Right now that says victory, victory, victory there for the 3 different objectives. Those are each controlled by which body part that you're using. If you have a different weapon, the top objective will change. If you have a different body, the medium one, and a different engine, the bottom one will change. But I have achieved all of the objectives for this set, so it says victory for all of them. I actually have for all of the weapons, which took quite a while, and I was able to get the final unlock, which I hope I'll be able to show off. For today, I'm going to try to get at least 10,000 points with each of the permutations that I have and that I can get through during this stream. I might not be able to get through all of them, but we'll see how far we can get. This is the first permutation you even unlock, so I'm going to start out with this one and hopefully be able to get 10,000 points. Now I'll actually get into some of the game here, where you can see some of these bullets are flying around, and there's ships on the ground. There's a whole bunch of different enemy types. So far we've seen mostly just jets and these little boats. There's a, yep, and the normal fighter planes, which is this guy right there that I blew up. Those guys shoot those round bullets, which actually I think do more damage than the missile projectile-ish looking things that the, battleships shoot. If I can actually go find a battleship here, I can show you. There is one spawn because I've seen their bullets flying around. There, yep, you see those bullets, those weird kind of cylindrical shaped bullets? Those come from these battleships and from guns that are like that. They're larger guns, but for some reason I don't think they do as much damage. Because I can take 3 hits from those and live, but I can't take 3 round bullets and live. And actually, battleships are some of the hardest things for me to fight. At least other people might have other... I guess it's harder to kill submarines from their submerging and avoiding damage, but battleships are one of my true foes because they output so many bullets, and they're hard to dodge. Okay, I'm dead, so I can show you the stuff. Cool, so you have a machine gun here as the original. There is a laser, which is one of my favorite weapons. It pierces and has a continuous beam that doesn't bend or... You have to be very accurate. It's slow turn while firing looks like it might be a disadvantage, but to me I actually think it's more of an advantage because it helps you focus on your target that you're actually trying to hit. The weapon spread is interesting because the heavy kickback that I notice is there actually does impact your trajectory quite a bit, so you can use it to kind of escape things or do strange backward dodging draft shots. It's tricky and finicky, but it can really help you out in fighting battleships because they like to lock onto a position, and then using the kickback from that allows you to avoid them. Missiles, I do not like. They are supposed to home, but they're kind of wonky. They miss a lot more than you would think that they should. There's also the cannon, which is very accuracy requiring. You need to hit one target with it and it will explode in like a firework formation, and all of the little shrapnel will take out other things around it, and this is used in building the very last thing you unlock. This actually does a lot of damage, I should say, before I move on. For the body types, there's the original, there's the armor, which is one of my favorite things because it's substantially better health. You can take about twice as much damage, and you can repair to full all the time, so it really lets you survive a lot longer. The slower movement is actually a little negligible, I feel. Then there is the melee body, which is interesting, which means that you can run into things and not take damage from it. Normally, you damage both yourself and the thing you're colliding with. It's still a viable tactic with other armor types, other body types, but this one makes it a lot more risk and reward kind of scenario where you're trying to use that as your main tactic, and if you get shot instead, it does a lot more damage to you. So you're a little bit of a glass cannon with this one, and I'm not too happy with it. There's the nuke body, which actually for point gathering is not very helpful because I think it's a bug in the game. I think the developers didn't want this to happen, but most of the things that you kill when you detonate on death actually do not count toward your score. The more impact damage seems like it would be a benefit, but I actually think, and this is, I guess, just my supposition, is that it's supposed to be the opposite of the melee armor. It is supposed to give you more damage when you are impacting things rather than deal out more damage, but it's vague in its wording and I don't really like that. I really wish it was a little more clear. Then there's the bomb body, which is pretty cool. You drop bombs every time you are firing, but it's kind of at a rate that you don't really rely on them, but those bombs that they do drop are really powerful, so if you actually do manage to drop it on things, and it makes dealing with water targets really easy, it does a lot of damage to them. The slower health regen is actually something I didn't particularly notice whenever I was using this body, so I actually like this body quite a bit, especially for spore runs, so hopefully that'll make it easy when we're doing that for the score. For the engines, there is the original, which we flew around with before. There's Speed Boost, the Super Boost engine. It really does rocket you around. You can escape from most things by just flying in a straight line, but it does make firing a little difficult while it's active, but at the same time, you really wouldn't want to have this active while firing anyway, because most times that means you would zoom past your target, or you would approach your target too quickly to do a lot of damage. So it's an interesting trade-off there. I actually don't think it is a benefit or a hindrance in that, but I like it for certain things. There is the Gungeon, which makes you go slower. It says propels using bullets, and that's all it says, but it's actually got a very low top speed. And it's really interesting because you shoot your pursuers as you are flying away. And actually, if you were to team that up with the spread shot here, you would have propulsion from both ends and weapons from both ends, making for a pretty interesting combination. Then there is the underwater engine. It says no water damage. If you remember when we were flying around before, there's water on the bottom, and I don't know if I ever got to show you, but there is a cloud layer on the top that if you go above the cloud layer, it does damage to you, and if you end up going underneath the water, it does damage to you, unless you have the underwater engine, which it negates all of the water damage, but it makes the top cloud damage a lot higher. The slower acceleration, I actually don't notice when I'm using this, so I kind of write that one off. Then there is the hover engine, which I find really interesting. You know how I was talking about strafing before and cutting the engine to continue your momentum? With the hover engine, gravity, yeah, like it says, almost no gravity, allows you to do some really interesting hovering stunts. And especially when you team it up again with the spread weapon, allows you to control your trajectory in very interesting ways, and we'll get to see that later. So what I'm going to do for my plan of attack is I'm going to change each of these things one at a time, so that first we're going to go with the original. When I get 10,000 points, I'm going to switch to the laser, then I'm going to switch to the heavy, and then I'm going to switch to this. And in that way, we should be able to crawl through the entire selection that way. It's not going to hit every permutation on this run-through, but it's going to give us the most variety, and then I'm going to have to do some touch-up later when we finally get to the end of that. So, let's try to get 10,000 points with the original. If I can select that. Okay, here we go. You'll also notice, if I can stop talking for a little bit, that this game has a pretty cool soundtrack, which actually changes with your loadout. So, The other part of this game that you're trying to do is keep your combo there, where it says ×4, now it says ×5. There's a bar that slowly fills up from the bottom to the top. When it reaches the top, it flashes, and if you don't get another kill in enough time, that combo will go away. It caps out at... come on. It caps out at 20. When it maxes out, you can't get any higher combos, but you can continue your combo by continuing to get kills. You want to stay up at max as long as you possibly can. And already we're halfway to 10,000. I'm actually pretty confident with this engine loadout, so we shouldn't be able to spend too much time in this. Fortunately, I dropped the combo there, so we won't be able to get it as easily. But if I can get the same combo again, that'll be enough. Unfortunately, more heavy things spawn in as time goes on. There's an interesting way that works. I might elaborate on that later. Right now I'm going to try to take out this battleship. Some of the ways that I like to fight battleships are to wait for them to start firing and then change my trajectory. Hopefully that gets them to lock onto the wrong area and leave them... oh, hello, that's what's called an ace right there. If they lock on, if the battleships lock onto their trajectory and start firing, they can't change their trajectory until they stop their barrage, which takes quite a while, as you can see. So that's the way, as long as you're able to concentrate on them, they aren't terribly hard, especially with the starting weapon, but some of the weapons make it a little more difficult to fight them. They take a pounding, though. They take a lot of direct hits from pretty much any weapon. I think it takes, like, 4 direct hits from a cannon to actually kill them. And there, I managed to kill it. So... oh, cool. That thing, it's filling up the entire radar, it says. That means that I have killed enough things to spawn a blimp. It is a very large enemy. As you can see, it's pounding on us right now. So, let's take a look at it. Let's see if I can get close enough to. I actually don't have enough points to make me happy with this, so maybe I should back off and try to... okay, some def dodging here. Try to get my combo up before I start taking on the blimp, which is kind of an interesting thing to tease. But I'm sure we'll see plenty of that throughout this game. If you're doing well, most times it will show up, but there's some other things that can show up instead of the blimp, and hopefully we'll get to see those too. Okay. The blimp launches these little missiles, which are really terrible for points, but they're good for combo, if you can actually kill enough of them in succession to get your combo up. And I really don't like what's in the area right now. I'm seeing at least 3 battleships. Oh... jeez. Okay. I'm trying to take a very conservative, measured approach to this flight to try not to die above all else, because, I mean, I'm kind of sad that I dropped my combo and that... oh, there we go. Building up a good combo when there are a lot of enemies on screen is a good way to buff your score. And unfortunately, when the blimp shows up, it kind of sucks up a lot of the resources for spawning enemies. The way I've come to understand the enemy generation is that there's a certain value of enemies that's supposed to be on the field at a certain time. So the harder enemies are less likely to spawn in clumps, and they take up more of the allocated resource. So you can have a cloud of these little dinky dogfighting ships, or you can have the giant blimp and 3 battleships and nothing else. And I really don't like when they're just big enemies to deal with, because it's really hard to keep a combo in that scenario. So usually when there's a max combo, I'll start trying to whittle down the larger enemies, and then when I need to feed my combo, I'll just grab a snack off of one of these little tiny ones. This run is looking okay. I've still got a lot of little tiny enemies to feast on, and I've already got halfway to 10,000. Lots of these boats. If I can kill these boats, I should be in good business. Oh, okay. Bad situations, though. Okay. I think I'm okay. Was that enough? We did not break the barrier, but we did beat our last high score, even though I was alive for less time. That is the power of the combo. Whew. So, in this early part of this stage, there's a lot of little things to fuel your combo, and usually I like to get up to 20 and then try to keep that one. It's helped get a lot of really high scores before, and usually the moment you drop your combo is the moment you start getting reckless and wishing for a restart where you can stock up on the little tiny ones. But if the spawn is on your side, it will continue to make the little ones. $13, not bad. 16. I don't know if I want to start working on that battleship or not. Because all of the points come in when you have killed the enemy, not while you're fighting it. Oh. Wow, that took me out fast. This is actually turning out to be harder than I thought. I did do a few practice runs before I started this to see what would be a reasonable limit, and 10,000 actually seemed to be pretty doable, but apparently I'm not doing so hot this time. I got this game 6 months ago-ish. It was actually pretty cheap, but the price fluctuates with all the Steam sales. I've seen it as low as about $250, I think. So I feel like it's definitely worth it. I'm not really showing off the mission mode that is kind of the main thrust of the game when you first get it. I'm kind of playing it in a strange, esoteric way, but it's definitely worth the money. And I actually probably wouldn't mind buying it for $750, I think, is probably the limit I would give on it. And I'm getting a lot of hours out of it, so it's a simple game that does really well at building its simplicity into a complex machine. Still didn't get it. This actually started as a Flash game that only had the weapon combination that I'm showing you right now. It didn't have any kind of customization at all, but it did have the core gameplay mechanic. Also, the music was not quite as good. It was a little bit more chiptune-y, and they got someone professional on board to actually write the track for this. You'll also notice that they only use 4 colors. You can change the colors that they use by unlocking skins. I'm using one of the mid-game unlock skins that actually seems rather Game Boyish, and this one happens to highlight all of the ships and vehicles in a very bright color and all of the bullets in a very dark color, and I really like that contrast. Oh, did I make it? Oh, so close! And I'm going to show off a few of these other things, and you can see kind of like the people are kind of negatives of themselves. The initial one that you probably will see most videos using is the original. It's got some nice detail. It actually looks like people, good shading. I may as well fly around with this for a little bit. But it is kind of harsh on the eyes, I kind of feel. So I tend to go for the ones that have a more dark background, because it's easier to see everything. And actually, even before I switched to the one that I was using before, I used a different one that was quite a bit like this, but was darker in color. And this has more of like a washed out, I don't know, like a Tandy, I almost feel like. An Apple II-esque palette, except with much higher resolution, of course. I do like the white bullets, though. They're very outstanding against the... They have a good contrast with their edge, I guess. Okay, we're doing good, we're doing good. If I can kill this guy, good. But I need to keep my combo. Oh, I dropped it. Oh, man. Okay. You can see the score on the left is actually my running total that only gets added to when the score on the right, when I actually drop my combo, those two scores add together. So we're looking good. This should be enough. Okay. I think I actually have 10,000 now. I can die happy. I got what I wished for.